Are you curious about a startling fact? Many people believe that human performance falls on a bell curve, also called the normal distribution. In this distribution, it takes the shape of a bell and it's often used to predict things, assuming that the largest majority of people hover somewhere in the middle around the average, with a gradual tapering over the two ends or tails. Now, if this distribution was true, that would mean most of your employees are average performers with a very few high and low performers. But that's not exactly true, is it? In reality, humans perform on a power law curve. This has two long tails, and the top tail is about the individuals who hyperperform and hyperproduce. These are your star performers who disproportionately contribute to the outcomes of your entire team or organization. Whether you manage a team of 10, 100, or even 100,000 people, it is quite likely that over 80% of the results of your organization are delivered by less than 20% of your people. This is commonly referred to as the 80-20 rule or the Pareto Principle. Now, what does the Pareto Principle or law have anything to do with human performance? Technically, it's not even a law. A law would imply it's a universal law, applies across situations. That's not true. How it came about was in 1906, an Italian economist by the name of Pareto, he observed that 20% of people owned about 80% of the land in Italy. And he started observing that 80-20 rule across many situations. In fact, so many human performance conversations have also registered how 20% or less of your people often are responsible for outcomes that span over 80% of the total productivity. Now, this needed to be proved, which is what happened in 2011 and 2012. Two researchers set out to look at 198 different samples. They looked at researchers, athletes, entertainers, all these groups, and what they found in these 198 samples was that 94% of these groups did not follow the normal distribution. They followed what we refer to as the power law. Now, how power law distribution is different as compared to the normal distribution, which assumes that the largest majority of your people are average performers. Power law, most of the people will actually be below average performance. Now, I know that can sound very disturbing, especially as a leader who wants to get the maximum productivity from all employees. But it is interesting to observe that the way human performance actually occurs in organizations is that a very small proportion, about 10 to 15%, according to this research, are responsible for over 80% of the outputs or the outcomes that are being delivered. Now, on one hand, you can say, well, does that mean that the majority of my people are underperforming? My invitation would be to look at the hyper performance of your 10 to 15%, your star performers. In my opinion, it's less about worrying that most of your people are below average performers, but instead understanding that there is a huge variability in performance and you have a small group of people who are contributing disproportionately to the success of your team and your organization. What are you doing to leverage that kind of contribution in how you support those star performers and managing them differently than the rest of your team? What does that mean for your team of 10 people? Yeah, 2 are really doing the disproportionate amount of work. And if you're curious and you want to manage for the 8 rather than the 2, there's a separate video that should serve you well. But if you're really curious about what you could do differently to really honor and appreciate these 2 or your star performers, I have 2 tips for you. First, let's talk about money. Giving these people competitive pay and performance-based pay raises can make all the difference in attracting, motivating, and retaining your star performers. The second strategy is something the researchers called ideals, idiosyncratic work arrangements that customize to the specific needs and desires of these people to honor and appreciate and recognize their exceptional contributions, whether it is investing in their learning and development, work arrangements that honor their full lifespan, whatever it may be. But it's not a cookie cutter approach. It has to be something that is co-created or created by or identified by the star performer. This actually offers you non-monetary ways of attracting, motivating, and retaining these star performers. And I think this has become even more obvious with all the changes that we have seen happen as a result of the post-pandemic world. Forcing people to be in a certain place to deliver their work unless it's absolutely necessary could really be a negative for a star performer. So this timing is even more important to recognize who your star performers are. And then equity. So equity is not equality, which means that you are going to equitably honor and recognize these people above and beyond anybody else. A word of caution though. Anytime you exercise equity or a disproportionate recognition or privileges that are offered to a small group of people, communication becomes incredibly important. It is important that you let everybody on the team know that you are recognizing which individuals on which criteria, which is primarily consistently exceptional output over a long time, not just one exceptional result, and then use that as a transparent approach to demonstrate that they have done exceptional work and why they get the privileges of that extra performance-based pay or the ideals. You do that, and you will be making a significant contribution in upkeeping or further enhancing the performance of your star performers, leveraging the power law distribution, not the normal distribution. If you're curious about more insights that can make a world of difference in you leading your teams, please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.